AITA. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to cater to my autistic brother's needs at my wedding? So, my brother is autistic, he has a lot of very special, specific needs, from what kind of fabric his clothing is made of to what he will eat, and how it's prepared, to the sounds and smells around him. Because of his special needs, he needs a lot of extra attention, so growing up my parents were very much occupied with taking care of him. If things aren't exactly how he likes them to be, he will have a meltdown that usually involves screaming, crying and throwing things, and it's quite unpleasant. I know he can't help it, it's just how it is. Well, I'm recently engaged and planning my wedding, which is in 2 years, so fingers crossed the pandemic will be under control by then, and I'll admit I'm being very selfish about it. I never got anything to myself growing up, everything always revolved around my brother, and so I've decided I'm going to go all out with my wedding and serve the food I like, decorate how I like, play the music I like, etc. My fiancé is amazing about it, and has no interest in helping plan the wedding. He just has a few things he wants to have a say in, and he has already made those choices, so we are good, and just wants me to be happy. I visited my mother this past weekend to talk about planning the wedding, and what I've chosen so far, and my mother was shocking and appalled. She said, "The caterer I chose doesn't have enough food options for my brother, he doesn't like the flavor cake I want, the colors will upset him, and having a DJ and lights will overwhelm him." I got mad at her and told her it's my wedding, not my brother's birthday party, that she can pack him a meal if he doesn't like anything on my menu, and bring him a cupcake so he can have cake, and that there are back rooms in the venue that he can sit in while other people are dancing. She got super mad at me and said I'm being a selfish, horrible person for not considering my brother's needs at all, and basically making it impossible for him to enjoy himself at my wedding, that weddings are about family. She said, I should know how hard things are for him, I should have done better, and I need to change everything immediately. He hates parties and crowds, he would much rather sit in a back room and watch videos on his iPad than socialize. I don't think it's unreasonable for my parents to let me have one day where everything isn't perfect for my brother, and they should appreciate what I enjoy and want for my wedding. I don't have any plans on changing anything about my wedding, because I honestly just don't want to. AITA? Am I the a-hole? Edit. My fiancé and I are paying for the wedding, my mom offered to pay for my dress, and my fiancé's mom is paying for the rehearsal dinner. Also, there are foods my brother will eat on the caterer's menu, it's just there is only one meal he likes, chicken tenders and potatoes, and there will be other things there he likes like cookies, just the main cake will not be a flavor he likes. NTA. Not the a-hole. If he hates crowds and noise, nothing you do is going to make it fun for him. It sounds like you offered some reasonable solutions. Your mom is being awful. NTA. Not the a-hole. Your wedding is about you and your fiancé. It's not selfish to want that. Your mom probably thinks you're being selfish, but I would counter with so is she. She's so used to the life she's built to make things comfortable for your brother, she seems to have forgotten she has another child with needs. Stand your ground. And I hope you have money to pay for your own wedding. That's the absolute best way for you to get what you want, not what your brother needs. NTA. This is a situation where I would suggest that he wasn't even invited. I know it's bad, but you don't tailor a wedding around someone with such specific needs. NTA. When you mentioned clothing, I thought you might be the a-hole if you were trying to make him wear some type of fabric he truly can't tolerate, but none of this is about you imposing your ideas on him. You should do it your way, and of course he should bring his own food if he can't eat what's being served. NTA. But your mom did a huge disservice to your brother. I have an autistic child as well, and they can and should be taught to self-cope. They can't always have their way. Your mom took the easy way out. Stand your ground and have your wedding your way. AITA. Am I the a-hole for uninviting my brother to my wedding because he plans to propose to his girlfriend? I get married in 2 weeks, and my brother visited me yesterday to tell me that he wants to propose to his girlfriend at my wedding. Personally, I strongly dislike proposals at other people's weddings, so I immediately shut this down. I told him no, come up with a different idea for the proposal. But he continued to try and persuade me to let him do it because it'll be romantic. And then he said that I was uptight. So I told him that if he is set on this plan to propose at my wedding, he and his girlfriend are officially uninvited. AITA. Am I the a-hole? ANTA. Not the a-hole. You should have them both over before the wedding. At some point when your brother can hear, tell the girlfriend that one of your friend's wedding got hijacked by a proposal, and isn't that just the most inconsiderate thing? Can you imagine what kind of selfish attention-seeking person would do that? And lazy, right? The woman being proposed to would always know that no effort had been made by the proposer. It's just terrible. I would be too embarrassed to ever tell anyone how I was proposed to if it was me, if I even said yes. She'll agree, and he won't do it. ANTA. It's just never okay to propose at someone else's wedding. And it's not romantic. ANTA. Tell him if he wants to propose at your wedding and venue, he can pay for a portion of the expenses that it took to hire the event space. He wants the romance and the nice setting? Tell him to pay for it, as that would be the case if he wanted to do the proposal at a nice venue anyway. He wants the flourish, flowers, food, and much ado. Since he wants that attention and the romantic appeal, billing him for 50% of the venue would be fair. ANTA. People who propose at other people's wedding are inconsiderate as frock. I've been married more than once. My first wedding was in the 70s, and I had a friend who loved to be the center of attention. Her way of achieving this was to collapse at random times, which she did quite often. My wedding was in a church, and she and her husband, they'd got married in the same church a few months before me, were sitting a few pews from the front. Sure enough, during the ceremony I heard a bit of a noise, and saw that she'd kind of slipped off the seat and was wedged between the pew seat and the back of the next row. Everyone ignored her, including her husband. She then had to try to pull herself back up without any help, which was hard for her as she was a large woman. We all laughed about it afterwards, well, all of us except her. ANTA. Not the a-hole. Everyone knows the basics rules of what not to do at a wedding. 1. Don't propose at someone else's wedding. 2. Don't announce a pregnancy or engagement. 3. Don't show up wearing a white dress. Basically, don't upstage the bride and the groom on their big day. AITA. Am I the a-hole for refusing to cover my arms at my cousin's wedding? A few years ago, I was involved in a very painful and scary accident. Most of me was unscathed, but my arms, mainly my forearms, were damaged. I recovered 80 to 85% of my mobility, and all I have left now are some scars. Most are not that bad, but 3 of them are big and pink, which, because of my slightly darker skin, really stand out. It took me ages to really come to terms with myself. I know it sounds silly, but I had to practice looking in the mirror, and telling myself that my arms and my body are fine, and how silly it is to worry about this kind of thing. Fast forward to this year, where I get an invitation to be a bridesmaid in my cousin's wedding, which will take place late next year, when my cousin and her fiancé predict COVID to have died down. The first red flag, which I did not pick up on, was when my cousin video called me to show me the bridesmaid dress I'd be wearing, sleeveless, and completely identical to the other 7 bridesmaids' dresses. I got up at one point to grab a pair of shoes to show her, leaving the camera on as I did so. When I returned, she had a strange look on her face, and she said she'd have to call me later and hung up. A week later, she calls me, tearily, telling me that, "I'm so sorry to do this, but my best friend X ruined her dress and you are the only one with the same size dress." I clearly knew where this was going and I told her I didn't mind, etc. After some small talk we finished the call. Again, I didn't think much of it. Then, a few days ago, my cousin calls to ask what I ended up deciding to wear. I was a bit confused, as this seems very early to worry about a wedding taking place next March, but I pulled a few options out of my closet to show her. Her response was, don't any of them have sleeves?" "No. They all look very pretty though," I answered. After a pause, she sighed heavily and said, "Look, I don't know how else to say this, but I don't want your arms in my pictures. They're just so ugly. Even if you're not a bridesmaid you'll still be in the pictures." And then she burst into tears. I was speechless. I felt angry, hurt, and shocked all at once. She kept sputtering and blubbering about how horrible my arms would look in her high-def photos. I was still speechless, angry tears getting ready to pour out. Finally, I found my voice and said, "I don't care how you feel about my arms. I spent months coming to terms with my body and I see no reason to hide it. If that's a deal breaker, I won't be at your wedding." She gasped and I hung up. Now I'm getting all sorts of texts from my cousin, her fiancé, and several of her friends telling me what a selfish bee I am. I started to feel badly, but I also don't think I should be forced to feel ugly and ashamed. I wouldn't even be in all the important pictures if I'm just a regular guest. I don't know, Reddit. I just don't know. AITA? Am I the a-hole? Thanks for reading. Thank you everyone for your kind and encouraging words. I think not going to this wedding would be much better for my mental health than attending. My cousin has always been a little shallow but it really did hurt this time. Thank you, Reddit, for helping me feel better about removing this woman and her cohorts from my life.